For this podcast, we have Ann Wellman from the Long Beach Community Theater. This podcast was recorded some time ago alongside some others, so you will hear us refer to things in the past as if they were in the future, so just be aware of that going forward. Let's go into it. Welcome to Coffee House Writers Group Podcast number 10. Today we are having a discussion with Ann Wellman, and a lot of this talk today has to do with community. She is from the Long Beach Community Theater, and as writers, we make ourselves known in the community. That's part of our goal. As I've said many times before, the point of art, and as writing as an art, is to start a conversation. I hope you're doing well wherever you may be, although you may not be so well sometimes. That happens. It leaks into our art. A lot of art is the result of suffering. It just happens that way. But we cannot let the pain that we experience work against us. There are a lot of momentous moments in our lives where strong feelings can completely overwhelm you. They can make you say really strong things that you mean, things that have bite and sting and that feel good to say. But if you let it be divisive, then it's being counterproductive, because you can't have a conversation if someone you're trying to speak with is being driven away by what you say. If you describe a whole class of people to be one thing or another, then it's easy for them to write you off. And really, they should write you off if you talk like that. So while you may feel certain things, it's important to keep in mind how things are being heard. Here at our critique groups, one of the things I like about it is we're constructive. We build things. When we hear a piece read to us, we're not trying to tear it down. We build it up. We say, this thing didn't work. That thing was really strong. You should maybe work a little bit on this thing. We don't just tear it away and put it in the garbage. That's not how it works. And that's not how writing works. You have to build on what you had before. So instead of writing with despair and fear, don't act on those things alone. Think with your heart and your head. For even things such as the philosophy of art, I look to art for those sort of answers. One of the reasons I love art is that it helps build us wider worldviews, better worldview in my opinion. And you may recognize some of that art as I quote it. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Right? Like every word you're saying is being heard by everyone, and hope it does. Remember that we are a part of a community, so let's build each other up. Thank you for listening to the Coffee House Writers Group podcast. I'm J. Brian Jones. This is my conversation with Ann Wellman. So you were saying that Christine, you met at a coffee shop?
Yeah, we did. We met through Facebook, and then she asked if I'd meet her for coffee, and we had a long conversation, and I love her. She's a connector of people and has a big passion for collaboration and getting people fired up and supporting each other. So she introduced me to you, and here we are.
Yeah, she said in her own podcast that she'll just ask random people, it's like, are you a writer? Is that what happened?
Yeah, well, I do the community theater, so I ask people to submit a story or an idea. They have 5 minutes or less to share a story from their life using any form of artistic expression they like. Writing is a huge one. So we met and we just started supporting each other. And yeah, that's
so I imagine being a theater thing, and full disclosure, I have not been to the Long Beach Community Theater before, that the writers there would be audibly sharing their work. You're reading it out loud.
Yes. So first of all, you need to come because they're amazing shows. And second of all, yeah, it is that where they're going to come in and they're going to share their writing. But what I've seen at a lot of writing workshops where they're sharing out loud, they're not performing their piece. So with me, they're learning how to actually perform their piece, where they're going to get some more feeling, some more emotion, facial expression, looking eye to eye with the audience. And it gives them a whole new perspective and level of hearing their own writing.
Yeah, it's definitely beneficial to hear what you write, and when you're critiquing, knowing when something doesn't sound right, because if it doesn't sound right, then it's not right.
Right.
Do they do the voices for characters if they're reading?
They do. I encourage them to, and some are more comfortable with that than others. And it's fun when they play, though. And I think that they discover a new side of their self that they may not have known existed before. And I just get great feedback from people. And I think they have a little treasure they can take with them when they leave.
So when does this happen?
So we've been doing 2 shows a year for the past. We're on our 3rd season. We're coming up on show 7. So this year we're actually doing 3 shows. It'll be the first time that we've done 3. But normally it's 2, 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring. So we're on break right now, summer vacation, and getting ready to go again in the fall.
Cool. So what do you do when you're not
Not doing the community theater.
when you're at your vacation, your summer vacation, summer break?
I'm still working. So I just submitted actually for the Music Tastes Good festival. They're asking for performing art submissions. So I'm still working. I think I have a little bit of maybe I have a problem, little addiction or something, because I'm still going, but I love it too. I love collaborating with people and getting to know. I think everybody has a story to share, and it's just interesting connecting with people and hearing who they are, what they're about, what makes them fire up on the inside. Right.
And you clearly collaborate with Coffee House Writers Group. Do you collaborate all around, or are we just special like that?
Well, you're special like that, but yeah, I'll collaborate anywhere. I'm easy. Yeah, anyone that wants to participate, I try and get them in there. I love working with adult dreamers and bringing some things to fruition for them and getting that spark going. I think sometimes we lose that piece of our childhood, when we used to like to play and make pretend and do all of these things. So, yeah, I like to bring that back to life.
Cool. When I picture it, I picture like spoken word poetry out there, just because that's something that most of us has probably heard of, the poetry slams, or when they do that. Does it feel like that at the Long Beach Community Theater when they do that?
It could feel similar to that, some of the pieces, but the difference is that we've got dance, we've got film, we've got music, and we've got the spoken word, and we've got the poetry, and we've got people just simply sharing a story. We've got people acting out their stories. So it's very creative, really fun. The shows, the stories are 5 minutes or less a piece, so the show goes really fast, where you're just watching people come and very quickly give you a little slice of their life. I feel like it's people watching at the airport, where you get to watch. And I really feel like each person is a little piece of art, where you watch their body, their facial features, their gestures, everything, all of it. It all together comes together as a little piece of artwork. Yeah.
Is there something that we need more of, this particular type of form of writing or form of artistic expression, that you're like, I need more dancers, or I need more film?
I'll take more of anything. I'm good to go with whatever people bring forward. So yeah, I'm thrilled with the variety that we've gotten. So, but I love the written word just by itself, and bringing those words off the page and into reality. So
how do most people say that they find you?
Probably through Facebook. I go out to First Fridays in Bixby Knolls. I do the beach cleanup with Justin Rudd in Long Beach. So I'll get out on the streets. I'll go after people. I'll go to open mic nights and hunt people down and give them my card and just encourage everywhere I can. And then I ask the performers, please, help me spread the word, because we're grassroots and there's no big money behind this or anything like that. So I think people, mainly word of mouth, I guess, and social media.
Yeah. So that's how you build it in general?
Yeah. And I think just the more people hear what we're doing, that it is different. There's The Moth on NPR. There's a lot of shows like this. There's Mortified. There's in Long Beach, they have a search for the Long Beach greatest storyteller. So there's different types of storytelling theater, but there's not a type of community theater like this anywhere that I know of, where it's 5-minute stories and every kind of artistic expression you'd like. So we're adding the variety. So I think that is what sets us apart from others. And they're learning. They're not just coming in and doing like an open mic where they just go up and do their piece and that's it. there's 2 rehearsals beforehand where they're critiqued and then coached so that they give the best version of their piece they can. And my idea is to lift everyone up, from the audience to the performers to myself to anybody that's there, to feel better about themselves for sharing and for having heard it and witnessed what they just saw. So it's just a good all around whoop whoop.
Very cool. So let's say that I'm a writer and I have a 5-minute short story that I want to add to the Long Beach Community Theater. What is my process from start to finish?
So the show that we have coming up in the fall is called, okay, let me think what it's called because I just named it. It's called Forgotten Keepsakes and Misplaced Memories. And so what you would do is you would look at that title and think, does that remind me of a little something? Have I forgotten a keepsake or a memory? Or, you just start with brainstorming in yourself and see if something fires you up about the topic. And if so, then you have a piece that you've written that's 5 minutes or less. You would just send it to me via email. We have longbeachcommunitytheater@gmail.com. That's our easy email. People just write me, and then I accept people straight off of what they write to me, not off of meeting them or seeing them. I have no idea who most of the people are when they walk through the door at the first rehearsal, which is kind of fun. It feels like Christmas morning. They're walking in, and I'm trying to guess whose face goes with which story that was submitted. But it's straight just off of what their idea is and if it fits the theme.
So there's a panel?
Me. Panel 01. Yeah, it's just me. And I try and include everybody I can. The only people that I've ever cut are when they're not on the theme or it's not working. I had somebody, he wanted to do stand-up comedy. And so I told him, well, you have to tell me the jokes. And he couldn't tell me the jokes in advance. He would give me samples of jokes, which were kind of mediocrely funny in my opinion. So, but he wouldn't give me specifics for what he was going to do for the show. So he would be an example of somebody that, it didn't work out. Had he given me what he was going to say and they worked, I would have taken him. So I do. I'm very inclusive and I'm a hugger.
Do you find that people who come are Long Beach born and raised?
To be performers or for the audience?
To be performers.
Performers, both. We get a lot of Long Beach natives for sure, but we get from far out that'll come. I think you said you just started a writers group in Claremont?
The Coffee House Writers Group, we're expanding, and that's one of the places.
Yeah, I think we have performers from out that way, Claremont, Pomona, that area. We've got a group that comes and just people, they're welcome to come from wherever, as long as they have a story to share.
Oh, so they're flocking to the Long Beach Community Theater.
They're coming. I don't know if they're flocking, but I'll let them flock if they want to. Yeah, but we are getting them from all over. I feel like Long Beach is a very hospitable town, and so is the Long Beach Community Theater. So, yeah, we welcome them with open arms. Yeah,
Long Beach is one of those places I can't quite nail down. It's something I'm still learning because I lived in Echo Park, and I feel like I know what that area of town is, especially based off of its history. But Long Beach is something where, first of all, there's no parking anywhere. But like the pedestrians, the people I meet walking around, they're so varied. And it's just that they're very, very integrated. And the people that come to the Long Beach meetup that I run, are from all walks of life. Is that something you feel you see in Long Beach and through that, the community theater?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm from Echo Park too. That was the first place I lived. So, Echo Park in the house. Yeah, Long Beach is definitely very culturally diverse, and the shows are exactly the same way. Yeah, where it's so fun just to watch the different flavors of people that come up and share. And I find the same to be true of Long Beach, but Long Beach is one of those cities that the more you delve into it and get to know it, you just fall in love with it. The arts are alive and kicking there, and it's beautiful, and it's awesome to be a part of it. I'm so excited to be on the wave of it coming up because I honestly think Long Beach is a huge contender in the arts, and I think it's only gonna skyrocket. It's really cool. Oh yeah, it feels to me like a mix. If you fused Silver Lake and downtown LA, that's what you get. Yeah, it is. It is like that. Yeah, it's kind of trendy, but it's also very real. and raw and edgy and cool and forward thinking and all of it. Yeah.
So why Long Beach? Why start there?
Well, I moved to Long Beach about 10 years ago. Started out in Echo Park. I taught in the inner city for about 9 years. And then I quit to be a stay-at-home mom and moved to Long Beach. We bought a house down there because that's where we could afford to buy a house. And very quickly, I knew I needed more than just being home with the kids, and collaborating with people has always been my passion. So I knew there wasn't a Long Beach community theater. So I talked to the head of the Arts Council back then, told him my idea, and he told me to go for it. Then I got pregnant within about 3 days. So put that on hold for 3 years. But I started it up when my son was about 2.5, 3 years old. And yeah, it's going, and I feel like we're on the rise too. We've had a great response. We've had huge audiences, and yeah, it's just been amazing and so fun.
So the thing about the theater and your idea was based out of what was needed in the community?
I would say so, yeah, because at first when I wanted to do community theater, I just wanted your stereotypical, I'll do plays and invite people from the community to come in. But then as I had seen some of the story type theater, like The Moth or like Mortified, I've seen several of them actually. There's one up in LA called Expressing Motherhood, which is straight just motherhood stories. That's awesome. I thought this is a really cool way of bringing their self and their story and their words, so they're creators too. It's not just we're taking somebody else's play and then presenting it as has been done before. I like to kind of create the path as I go, and we are, and I'm so proud of the work that we're doing.
Right. So you're getting original stories, not like people redoing Shakespeare or whatnot.
No, yeah, and they need to be a true story. Yeah, it needs to be something from their experience.
Oh, so they're pretty much all autobiographical.
Yes. Yeah, so I've had people turn in stories that are, fiction.
Fiction, yeah.
But, yeah, it needs to be nonfiction. It needs to be you served up on a platter. We want to see your heart up there on the stage. And
Interesting. Well, that gets especially interesting where it's plays where people are depicting real people, right?
Yeah. So far, though, they've just been doing their self. So we just had in the last show that we did, which was on fatherhood, we had a man do a piece on himself, but he started as a little boy when he's 4 years old, and then he takes it up till now where he's 40-something, 45, I guess, somewhere in there. But he takes it and shows all the stages of his life, and he had little trinkets. Like he started out with a little airplane when he's a little kid, and then he barbecues in his 30s, and then he turns out into a dad where he's wearing a tiara and he's got a magical wand, and his daughter's calling him to come play. So he was himself, but he did multi characters of himself through time, and it was really fun. It was so fun to watch. And it was way out of the box for him. I mean, that's nothing like what he does. But he did it in high school. And now in his 40s, he's back, and he had a blast.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So from the time where after you present it to the Long Beach Arts, 3 years later, how do you build something from the ground up? How did you first start it?
Begging. I begged people. That's really how I did it. And our first meeting was in my backyard. And I had some wine and some little snackies. And I, begged people to come. And I just put it out online. I started the website. And then I put it on Facebook. And I just told people, I have a dream and I want to do this. And please come and share a story. Our first show was, what was our first show called? I believe it was called On Parenthood. So each of our shows starts with a ... on something, and it's their name is supposed to be before the ... So if you were sharing a story, it'd be J on Parenthood. So that was the first theme, was parenthood. I felt like it was universal, and I thought I would get a lot of light, fluffy stories. The first show we had 13 acts, but one was a whole family of 5. They had a whole band. They played Bolivian music. Super cool. It was in a bar. It was at D Piazza's on PCH. We had my dad, who was in the Park Service for 42 years. He came up there with my daughters and did like a campfire song. And we had the stories that came in where I expected fluff were kind of hard-hitting stories where we had somebody
Deep,
talking,
right.
about her born a girl, wanted to be a boy, so transgender, and her question was, who does my loyalty go to? Does it go to my daughter who wants to be a son, or does it go to my friends and society that's going, no, she's a girl. She's a girl. Well, she performed the piece in front of her son at the bar, and it was awesome, for her son to sit there and look at his mom and be like, wow, she's standing up in front of all these strangers and telling our story. We had a group, a couple that was lesbians that told about the difficulty of getting pregnant, and carrying I can't remember what's called, like a cryo tank, and like picking out the sperm. And, it was just really interesting. They weren't little simple stories, stories of abuse. There were stories of beautiful parenthood and parents that showed up, or their self showing up, a mom with a son with autism, and what that's like. The stories were just, as I'm getting them, I'm just like goosebumps, and I'm crying, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe these stories are coming. And that was the first show. And then we've just gone up from there. So
That is a strong first show, just listening to what the lineup consisted of.
yeah, it was amazing. I just, honestly, I do feel like that, like life takes you on this journey. And sometimes if you allow it and you just kind of breathe into something, the people will come if you just say, this is what, and I believe in it, and I believe in you, and we're going to do this. I think people are surprised at how good the shows are, honestly, the people that are in it and the people in the audience, because they're amazing. I'm serious. They're amazing. I'm blown away every time.
Do you find that most people coming are first-time performers or presenting stories in general?
So we have... each show's different, but I do have people that come back. I have one gal that's been in every single show since we started, Nadine Shores. She's awesome, been in every show. I have a group that's been in almost every show. And then I have some that come and go, depending on the theme and if they're inspired by it. Majority is new each show, though, so which is great for the audience, because the ones that are coming back are kind of favorites. So when they're in them, I think people are like, oh, she's back in the show, or he's back in this show. But then the new ones are the surprises, the sweet surprises, where people are like, oh, who's this? And what's their story? And what are they about? And yeah.
It's amazing the type of stories that you'll just get from people in the community when you just listen to them and you give them a platform like that.
Yeah, amen. That's true right there. Yeah.
So taking notes, get people to come and start up this great new thing by saying wine will be there.
Mm-hmm. No. We will have wine. It's true.
Did you already have a pretty good group of artistic people, maybe friends on Facebook or whatever, that helped you build this from the bottom? What kind of help did you have at the beginning?
At the beginning, I had my Victor and my kids. I had a couple of good friends that were like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. And that they did come forward and they did share a story, which is not who they are. They're not performers. They're not the artsy type of people. They were just regular Joe Schmoes, and they're like, yeah, this sounds cool. I believe in what you're doing. I'll do it. And they did. They got up there and shared their story. So I got a beginning. And same with Mark DiPiazza, who let me use DiPiazza's for the first show. It was just having somebody to believe in you. And I do think that it starts with this just small little handful, and then it grows. So now I have a good crew. But starting out, yeah, I had a couple of friends that, and I know some artsy people, but to get them up there, it takes a lot of courage to get on a stage and let people judge you, which was what they're doing, really. But I think in this format, it's in a very loving way that they're judging. And a lot of times their eyes are opened to your story, your situation, and that we are all so different. We all have a very different experience in life.
Yeah, I find that, so I run the critique group in Long Beach for Coffee House Writers Group, and I'll share most weeks. Most of what I end up sharing is going to be fiction. And I've done, I think, 3 true story autobiographical pieces. And those feel far more vulnerable, especially when you're being critiqued and you're being judged. And whenever we're absorbing an art, we're judging for what it's worth and what we're supposed to get out of it. That's just how we absorb it in general. So to do that at your real life as opposed to just a fiction you create, that's much more nerve-wracking.
For sure. I was in a writing group called Rose Writers that's also in Long Beach. And when we would write, you weren't allowed to ask or say if it was autobiographical or if you had just made it up. So you never knew. Whereas here, it has to be autobiographical. And yeah, there's probably some little welches on the story. I mean, we remember things a little differently than they occurred for sure. But, you know, for the most part, it is to be a true story. So vulnerability, we talk about all the time, though, with the performers. And I let them know that that is what this is. But being vulnerable is a sign of power and strength. It's not a sign of weakness. And allowing yourself to go out there and be like, hey, this is me. And take it or leave it. This is me. So
after you're done, it's liberation.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah, unless you made a fool of yourself, which they don't. They don't. They don't make a fool of themselves. So
they're going to hold you to that.
They don't. I promise.
Have you shared something yourself?
On motherhood, I shared a tiny little piece because I am a mom. So I did share that. And I was really embarrassed to be a stay-at-home mom when I first quit teaching and was home. I couldn't even say it. People would say, oh, what do you do for a living? And I'd be like, I used to be a teacher, instead of saying I'm a stay-at-home mom. It just felt like the dirty words, the dirty little secret. So yeah, I did share that. And then just coming into the community theater, just a very small, I don't like to make it about me because it's not about me. So yeah.
Cool. Have you been a part of theater productions in the before Echo Park?
Oh, sure. I've directed and produced for 25 years. So yeah, from the inner city, from college. I used to direct over at the Virginia Avenue Project in Santa Monica. I did that for the first 3 years when we moved to Long Beach. So I'm driving all the way over there to direct. And I thought I could do this right here in Long Beach. So I could skip the commute and bring it right here home.
How did you first get started in the medium in general?
When I went to college, I was an English major. I wanted to be a teacher and teach English. I've always liked writing and words and poetry and reading. And then I think I must have taken a class. And then I kept taking the classes. And the professor was like, why aren't you a theater major? Because all your classes are... And I was like gradually getting out of the English and into the theater. So I was like, junior year, I switched into communications and theater arts. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Do you recommend that other people do that?
Be theater majors?
Be a theater major, like if they want to be involved in this sort of thing, that they go to college, be theater majors, things like that?
You know, I don't know. Everybody's path is different, and it is a hard path. It's the arts, and it's hard to make it in the arts. I remember my professor back then when I was getting close to graduating, she would tell all of us, if there is anything else that you love as much as you love this, do that one. Because it's going to be that much easier to make it doing something that's outside of theater arts than it's going to be to make it in it. So for me, though, I moved to LA. I got a job teaching pretty quickly after I moved here. Maybe within about 3 months, I got my job in the inner city and taught there. And it has been in my life. But, you know, I'm not getting rich doing it, but I sure am living a rich life. The people I've met, including yourself, have just been awesome. Yeah, it's a great life.
What did you teach?
I taught theater arts. I taught acting. I taught dance. I taught PE to supplement that. They had me teach child development one semester because I had a baby. So I guess that made me an expert. So yeah, okay, I still wasn't.
So high school then?
High school.
Subject.
High school, yeah.
That's very cool. My mom's actually a teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, she teaches, her favored grade is 6th grade. She's getting shuffled a little bit around. So what's your favorite part of teaching?
Okay, this is a generic answer, but it's the truth, is the possibility of making a difference and lighting a fire in somebody and letting them know you're so much more than what you think. Just step forward into what's inside of you and just see what happens. Just take that little chance and see if that little spark becomes a big, huge flame. And watching that happen, that for sure is my favorite part. And even now, with the adults, I feel like I am teaching them. And I see it. I see the difference from when they walk in the door and when they leave. And everybody that's in the cast sees the same thing. Because they come in and they don't know each other and they're shy and they're kind of timid about sharing their story. By the time they hit the stage with full confidence, with full vulnerability, and have that liberation leaving the stage, it's like, whoa, that was something. Yeah.
Some sort of camaraderie between them?
Oh, yeah. There's lots of connections made and continued after they're over.
Oh, that's cool. So it must be one of those things that I have some certain groups of activities that I do where I realize that people really come together. like in marathon running, people together were all fighting this common enemy, being the road of 26.2 miles. And then here in the Long Beach Community Theater, you're confronting vulnerability and not fighting against the audience, but you're fighting what you're presenting to the audience and just making it good for them.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Are you a marathoner?
I am a marathoner. I've run 2 marathons, 3 half marathons, a couple 5Ks. Yeah, I'm not as much on it recently. I had to skip this last one because of my knee, which happens when you run, especially when you're, I guess, broad like I am, broad-shouldered, and I used to be a bit heavier. So that's just how that goes sometimes. But back on the community aspect of it, do you have students come back to you to see how it's going? You ever just find somebody by happenstance and see how things ended up going?
No, I ran into a student at Grand Central Market in downtown on Mother's Day. She just happened to be there with her boyfriend and walked right up to my face. And she was a woman, and I'm expecting her to be this girl, from high school. So she's looking at me like, hello. And she's one of my favorite students. And I'm looking at her, and she's like, giving me this look like, hello. And then Victor and my girls recognized her before I did. And then she smiled or something. And I was like, Breeze, oh my gosh, and there she was in front of me. And I couldn't believe it. Here's this woman from a girl. And yeah, she's very successful and doing great. But yeah, I don't stay in contact with a lot of my students. I think in general in life, I meet people and I'm with them during that time. And then I kind of let it
be free.
Yeah, be
fly.
free, go do your thing. Yeah, I moved around a lot in the Park Service with my dad, and I think that lends itself to that. Where when people are with me, I'm all about you, and I'm still thinking about you when we've gone our separate ways, and I'm loyal to the ends. But yeah, I do. I don't hold too tight to people unless they want to hold tight to me. So.
Right, because you've had a lot of temporary connections, so you just value that while you have it, and understand that. Later, it might just go away, and who's there at the end is just who's there at the end.
Yeah, and it's okay. I think either way about it.
Yeah, that's happened definitely to me. I come from a military family, and though we didn't move half as much as other military families did, just because my dad made some sacrifices, that I ended up moving around, and just I had this picture as a kid that just like who you would be friends at one time with, you'd just be friends with forever.
Yes.
And that's just totally not the case. It's just you have who you're around and who you're with. And that's a tough lesson to learn. But it also, once you've learned that lesson, you gain more out of the relationships you do have at the time.
Sure.
I feel.
I agree. And also I think the ones that do stick with you through time are those are the golden ones, right? That just kind of, or you can have time pass, you come back together and the friendship's still solid as it always was. And then you can go your separate ways for a while longer and see from there.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the performances at the time. It's like you have the 5 minutes, and that while that's a short temporary time, after that, hopefully they linger with you in your thoughts and you enjoy it at the time as much as possible.
Yeah. Do you know the artist Andy Goldsworthy?
No.
So he does what he's known for is he takes things in nature and he'll make this huge, beautiful masterpiece out of, say, it's like sticks and mud and rocks out, by a beach or by a riverside.
Sure.
And
driftwood or something.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. They take photos of it, and then his style is he leaves it and then he just lets it naturally
decay.
Yeah, disintegrate down and back to its natural state. And I feel like these shows are a bit like that. And I've always felt like theater is somewhat like that because it's only for the people that were there and that saw it and that witnessed it, and those of us that were in it, we know it happened and know the importance of it happening. So I think there's a beauty in that.
Wow, that is something that reminds me of, just say, the monks who make those beautiful mosaics with sand, and they just have that, and then when they're finished, they just smear it all and it's done.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so long on it too. I want to say that it's sand. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But it's just part of that philosophy of you just appreciate it, and the work itself is valuable.
Yes.
Not just the result.
Yeah.
Do you feel valued in the work you do while it's happening, or do you feel like you love the result more than anything?
While it's happening, the process for sure, and the after, all of it, as it comes together. I just love the whole journey and seeing if we can do it, and we are. Yeah.
Cool. So what is the name of the show that's upcoming?
The upcoming show is called Forgotten Keepsakes and Misplaced Memories. A bit of a tongue twister.
Forgotten Keepsakes and Misplaced Memories. So that's just maybe a memory that comes back later after you've forgotten it?
Yeah, the main thing I was thinking of on this is kind of like an adult show and tell, where you go back into your closet or into your garage or your attic or your memories, or to yourself, things that you have misplaced or forgotten, and just find those things and remember the importance of them. And for me, an example of that was that I was a DJ in college for several years. I have all my cassette tapes in the garage. I have the first cassette tape I ever bought was Blondie when I was a little girl. So I have all of those. I'll never get rid of those cassette tapes. I don't even own a cassette tape player, but I'm going to keep those. So if I were to do a story, I might take that big bin of my cassette tapes and bring it out on the stage, and then maybe incorporate music and some stories along the way of, starting from Blondie as a childhood and then going into, college DJ, whatever, just finding things that are important. I have awards that I put into the garage, it's like, how those things were so important to me. Why are they shoved away in the garage? Just finding those things, or things that you used to love about yourself and kind of gotten away from as an adult. And
right. So those objects are worth more than what they physically are without the emotional attachment, because then they're representing something more.
Sure.
That's cool. So the themes, do you come up with those themes by yourself and then just that'll work? Let me put that into the next one.
I do. And this one I wanted to do, originally it was out of the box. And then I kept kind of playing with it. And this one was hard for me. And it is a tongue twister of a title, but ultimately I have faith it's going to be just fine. So yeah, I do. I come up with the themes. And
what awards were those that you mentioned that you just keep away in the garage?
Oh, what awards? Well, let's see. One I got for being LA's most inspirational teacher. It was one of LA's most inspirational teachers. That was one that's out there. I received an award for being Giver of the Year for the Long Beach Giving Project last year. That ended up in the garage. I brought that one back in recently, though, because I like to look at that one to just remember. Sometimes I feel selfish, and I like to remember that, I give too. Just let me remind myself that there's a balance there, So, yeah, swim team ribbons, those kind of things. Yeah.
That's cool. What would you say were your favorite type of mementos or awards to earn, like while they were happening? What do you think was like maybe your strongest one?
Probably the teaching one.
The teaching one?
And I'll tell you why. Is because when I was in high school, I had a teacher that he asked me, what do you want to be? Math teacher, which was not my subject. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a teacher. And he laughed in my face. And he was like, you're never going to be a teacher. And I was, I was kind of a little wiseacre kid, and I hated his class. I hated math. So I was probably one of those kids that he dreaded seeing every day.
So he didn't see what other teachers would have seen, I guess.
I don't know if the other teachers saw me having that potential either for being a teacher or not, but I did become one, and I think I became a pretty good one. So
that's very cool.
Yeah.
My mom, who ended up becoming a teacher, is a teacher now. She wanted to be in the FBI and then became a cop, and was a cop when I was born. And then later, after she had my brother, retired from that and then went into teaching a few years later. And I'd have to ask her why she went into that. I'm not quite sure I ever knew. Some of these things you don't think about while they're happening, especially as a kid.
Yeah.
So then... when you wanted to be a teacher, did you want to teach English? Did you want to teach theater in particular? Or did you just I want to teach in general?
When I first started out, I wanted to teach English. My favorite teacher in high school was my English teacher, who I'm still friends with to this day. But then as I went to college, I told you it switched to theater. And I had always done theater as a little kid and all the way up through high school. And I liked the acting side of it then. But as I grew in college and doing the radio and doing the directing side, I found that's where I'm stronger and where I'm happier. Yeah, where I belong. So.
Very, very nice. So did you always want to be on this side of the I know there's no camera, but for theater, do you always be on this side of it? Did you ever want to be on stage yourself?
I've been on stage myself, and I'm not very good on stage. So yeah, I think I'm definitely better on this side. I'm more well suited to be in the background than the main event. So I like watching other people shine. I get to shine vicariously through them.
So when you're when you're teaching theater, are you teaching the behind the scenes aspect, or are you teaching the people who want to be up on the stage?
The people that want to be up on the stage. Yeah, I think a lot of times, too, the people that are on the stage have no idea all that goes into making them look good. You know, that part I don't share with them because we're working on limited time. We have 2 very long rehearsals before the actual show, and then I have a bonus rehearsal for anybody that needs extra help. So we're really like on a timeline to get it done. So
cool. For somebody who may not understand, that may need a little bit of convincing, what do you think that having the Long Beach Community Theater provides to the community at whole that you see has that value?
I think it's just a great collaboration of great minds coming together and learning from each other and listening and sharing. And another thing that we do that we haven't talked about yet actually is that we lift up a local nonprofit. We've done that since we started. We give $2 of every ticket to a local nonprofit. Each year we pick one and that's who we give the money to. We also give them exposure, let people know they exist and what their needs are. And we also come up with goods for them, whatever they need, shoes or clothing or food or books, uniforms, these kind of things. We collect them from the community. So it's just a great way to bring the community together and, again, just lift people up. And, yeah, it's a great thing to be a part of. It's a feel-good, yeah.
Do you clearly get a wide net of people that come to be on the stage? Do you get a wide net of an audience as well? Do you feel like it's a good representation of Long Beach who you get?
I do, for sure, because I find Long Beach to be very culturally diverse, and that's what we get on the stage for sure, and also in the audience.
And do the people most find you on Facebook?
I think Facebook is probably where most do. I also hit the streets, and I put my flyers all over the coffee shops, and really just try and get the word out. I try and be accessible to people, and I try and be friendly to people so that I don't want people to feel intimidated by me. I never want to make people feel like I'm better than them or I'm talking down to them or anything like that. I really want people to know I cherish them and who they are and their story, and I'm here to just really enhance that. I just don't want any kind of, I don't like uppity and I'm too good for you. I don't like that kind of thing. So
yeah. So it's definitely that type of theater where there's like we're the community as opposed to we're here to self-inflate.
Yes. Yeah. And I've been asked that a lot. Like, what do you see next for the Long Beach Community Theater? Where is it going to go? Or how are you going to grow? And I don't have big aspirations for us getting huge and audiences of hundreds, or I don't have that. I'm fine with it being, on the smaller scale. Our audiences are anywhere between 60 to over 100 each show. So we're getting a nice full house, and I'm happy with that. And I definitely want people to be there to witness it, for sure. I do want that, but I don't need the hundreds, and I don't know.
Do you have your own dedicated location right now?
Right now we've been working out of this little church in a part of Long Beach called The Village, and it's called St. Thomas of Canterbury. It's very affordable for us to work out of there. They're very nice to us, very hospitable, and it's worked out nicely to be there. We've been there for, we're on our second year of being there. We started at D Piazzas, as I mentioned earlier. We went to an art gallery in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, the Cultural Alliance of Long Beach. We worked out of there, and now we've been at this church, and we're open to other locations. We're open to staying there, wherever the wind blows, I think is where I kind of tend to go, and whatever works out, whoever's willing to embrace us, that's where we'll be.
That's cool. And I'd imagine whatever place that there is, the church being right now, they definitely see value in the Long Beach Theater in general, bringing people together.
Yeah, Father George is the father there, and he's told me how much he really enjoys what we're doing and what we're bringing to the neighborhood, and yeah, he's been super supportive. My son went to school there. It's a Montessori school, so I found it because they did a little show in the auditorium that we use. It's Crosby Hall. It's just a stage and an open room that we can make into our own special place.
And the audience, you say that you get the some people returning on stage, and then people recognize it. I imagine you get the same audience coming back each time sometimes, right?
Yeah, I think we do have some regulars, and then a lot of new people each show. And a lot of people like, I didn't even know this existed. And that's hard to hear, because I'm always, at the end of the show, I always say, please spread the word, please tell, because I only know who I know. And to the performers, I tell them too, please tell people, that's the only way they're going to know. I'm never going to have a lot of money to put out on the advertisements for this, but I think we're slowly but surely growing, and people are knowing we're here and hopefully not going anywhere. So
you're interacting with the audience after the show. There's like some sort of like in the lobby, or that you're just like meeting the people. Yeah. Do you hear some things more often than others, aside from the things we've already talked about?
Yeah, just a lot of people are so impressed, and like, more people need to know about this. This is unbelievable. And just the compliments are just like, they're mind-blowing. I wish that I had a microphone afterwards to go around and kind of collect, because it's so much happening at one time. But another thing I do is at the back of the room, we put a table. So anybody that's in the show, if they have a book or they're a writer or they have another show that they're working on, we've had a gal that also does podcasts in Long Beach, and, they can put up any of their materials. It's all, again, about lifting up the community, and these are small business owners and artists, and really trying to help them get their name out there too. So I have them come out after right away. They come off the stage and around and into the front, because people want to talk to them. They want to know who they are. The nonprofit, they're there. The founder comes, and so people will help them to get all the supplies to their cars. People get to meet that founder. I like the one-on-one and the meeting of the people, and for everybody to be out there and kind of embracing of what people want to say to them.
That's so nice. That's something that I really love about this generation in general, is that we have this audience and creator interacting so much more than previous generations, especially like you have online people, just not just small like us, but big, being able to talk to other people on Twitter. And then you have the community theater like this, where you're talking with the person who actually creates, and that's such a special relationship.
Yeah. Synergy.
The synergy. Why do you say that most people want to come and perform there? What do you think is their most motivation? Because you probably have met a lot of them, if not all of them, I guess. You met all of them.
I met all of them. Yeah, that's a great question. I should actually ask them, why did you want to come and share your story? That's a really intriguing question. I would be curious to know the answer to that. What compelled them to come forward and share? But I would guess, though, it's the same thing that brought me to this community theater and to starting it, is sometimes there's just a burn inside of you that needs to come out. It needs to come out of you, and you need to see it be.
So do you, we can look it up, the next day and time of the
next show. It'll be on my website, though, for sure. People can check there, or on our Facebook page. And we have an email list, so I send it out to everybody that's on there, so they'll know.
Well, you have somewhat of a labor-intensive time getting people to learn about the Long Beach Community Theater, and hope this podcast reaches a few more.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Honestly, yes. I have huge gratitude for, again, Christine connecting me to you, and you connecting me to whoever listens. So thank you so much. Really.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. It's we're a small thing ourselves, and if we stick together and help each other out, then hopefully we all get the most out of it that we can.
Absolutely.
At the time.
You guys are growing too.
Yes. Yes, we are. And if anybody wants to help.
You're like, speaking of help, we need some too.
Well, thank you very much for coming here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this podcast of the Coffee House Writers Group. I am J. Brian Jones. That was Ann Wellman talking about community, especially the Long Beach Community Theater. I hope you enjoyed. And you can find us on social media. One of this will release every month on a Thursday. So please follow us to find out when those go live. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Coffeehouse Writers Group. And Twitter, we are at CH Writers Group. And I will normally end this part with go forth and create. And that note there will ring us out. This time, I would like to end this with a dramatic reading of my own, though not of my own piece, as Anne Wellman's pieces that she has in her own production be autobiographical. Mine is instead a reading from the work of William Shakespeare that I would just like to try for once if you would humor me. I think the timing is right, and just like to take a crack at it, if you don't mind. And that's how we'll end this out. This is a reading from Act 2, Scene 4 of Sir Thomas More. Thomas More was a real person, as Shakespeare had often written. This is a collaboration, so you will not find this in any complete works of Shakespeare. Please forgive if I say a word wrong. This is coming from memory. And this, interestingly enough, is one of the few pieces, in this soliloquy in particular, in William Shakespeare's own hand. So, to set the scene, we have some rioters out in the streets, and they are protesting, about to set fire to the houses of the strangers in their midst. These strangers are French religious refugees, actually, immigrants. And they're different types of people, speak a different language, and they don't want them there, blah, blah, for all of the reasons people don't like immigrants. And so they speak their piece. The statesman, Thomas More, has his own chance to speak, and one of the rioters says that the strangers should be removed. I might add this is an abbreviated version of this speech that I first heard from Sir Ian McClellan, so forgive me if you heard it from him before. I doubt I can live up to that. Anyway, so he says the strangers should be removed, and Thomas More says, "Grant them removed, and grant that this your noise hath chid down all the majesty of England. Imagine you see the wretched strangers, their babies at their backs, their poor luggage plodding to the ports and coasts for transportation. And you sit as kings in your desires, authority quite silenced by your brawl, and you in ruff of your opinions clothed. What did you got? I'll tell you. You were taught how insolence and strong hands should prevail, how order should be quelled, and by this pattern not one of you should live an aged man, for other ruffians, as their fancies wrought, will self-safe hand, self-reason, and self-right, would shock on you, and men like ravenous fishes would feed on one another. Oh, desperate as you are, wash your foul minds with tears, and those same hands like rebels you lift against the peace, lift up for peace, and your unreverent knees make them your feet to kneel to be forgiven. You'll put down strangers, kill them, cut their throats, and lead in the majesty of law and lion to slip in like a hound. Say now, the king, as he is clement, if the offender mourn, should come to short as your great trespass as to banish you. Whither would you go? What country by the nature of your error would give you harbour? Go you to France, or Flanders, any German province, nay Spain, or Portugal, nay anywhere that not adheres to England? Why, you must needs be strangers. Would you be pleased to find a nation of such a barbarous temper, that breaking out in hideous violence would not afford you an abode on earth? Whet their detested knives against your throats. Spurn you like dogs, and act as if God owned not nor made not you, that not all the elements are appropriate to your comfort, but chartered unto them. What would you think, to be thus used? This is the stranger's case, and this your mountainous inhumanity.